Hello, dear radio listeners and radio viewers. Business Dialogue is on air with you. We have decided to relaunch our business programs in this new format. Soon, business brainstorming programs will resume as well. But meanwhile, we are here in the scope of Business Dialogue. With my colleague Samvel Gevorkyan, representing Business Support Center, and me, Narek Alexanyan, business expert. And we have a surprise for you. This format involves our program guest, and my colleague and I will speak to Elvina Asatryan today. Hello, Elvina. Elvina is the head of marketing at Digital Factory. Now, what is that our program should be about today, here and today? Before going forward with that, Narek, I would also like to introduce the project in the scope of which this program is prepared. BSC, the Business Support Center, in cooperation with SAIP, Center for International Private Enterprise, and in Armenia, is implementing a project, a very important one. That is why I would like to highlight strengthening associations, improving access to the digital economies to restore Armenia's economy. And we will address today to business digitalization. We are very thankful to SAIP, our partner for this initiative and our partner for these programs. And now, dear Samvel, we are thankful also to BSC as well for the organizational activities regarding these programs. So now, why are we here today and what are we going to discuss? As we initially discussed with Elvina, this is not going to be an interview, but discussion focusing on increasing the role of digitalization. First of all, there's a weak perception among us of what digitalization is, because even in English it identifies different concepts, so we need to clarify what digitalization actually is and what tools are there available nowadays. Elvina, I would like you to introduce your company and refer to the practice tools that are digital, mainly for the SMEs. Very well. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, and it's a pleasure to welcome this format of discussing. It's very challenging. And more often, we're invited to various programs. We're usually informed in advance what's going to be there and what are we going to discuss. But this format is unique to attend, and without knowing what you're going to discuss specifically, and to me, it's very interesting. I have been engaged in business development in different areas for local and international markets for more than 7 years already. The last 3 years, I was mostly focused on branding and marketing. It's been a year and a half. I have returned to Armenia after working in the USA, and this is when my cooperation with the Digital Factory began. We're introducing mainly 3 services. First, branding, second, digital marketing and websites and design, not development. We cooperate with many companies in IT sector for the purpose of provision of the development segment. The most important aspect is that I would like to outline is the large number of companies and individuals we are engaged in terms of branding, like you have possibly noticed too. But what is more important, how they do that branding, especially how they position on digital platforms. I came across interesting statistics on one United States source stating that after COVID, 75% of businesses have switched to digital platforms, especially small businesses. And even they were not on those platforms before, that is quite an essential number though. This is the case when it can be said that for this purpose, even if there was no COVID, it should have been invented. 75% is such a rapid growth, and they have obtained such a priority. I was looking through the statistics in the more morning and I got very surprised as well. It is not only important, but it's a must. And even we today, with our behavior, we like to refer to this behavior a lot with Samvel. As all users are busy in our everyday life routine and work, and we will be physically unable to access and possess every new information, and we do not even have time for this. So what do we do overall to get informed on something, some new check on Facebook or other fact or Instagram? We want to catch up with that, where the people have reached and what's going on in the world. So it's not only important, but has become, I would say, obligatory. Now referring to branding, I'm not sure how much we will go in details on discussing branding. Personally, I like to say that branding is business. It is an identity. You should be able to build relations through your branding with your customers, and if you succeed building relations with your branding as an individual identity, like we have a name, a style, a dress, friends, values, etc., we have to realize that all of that is our business. Like our identity as well. Also, it also has a creating specific of the image that we should think how to position it later. And the digital platforms here are such a wonderful method to outreach to millions. Let's suppose we have opened a store on Abovian Street in Armenia, in Yerevan. Now, how many people would pass by? Still many, but not as many as would notice it if it was on Facebook, Instagram, or other social media platforms. We need to understand that we have this business, these branding tools that we have created. How should we introduce those to the customer? And to what extent should we value our time and the importance of digital platforms? Now, what's interesting topic I would like to mention here. I know Alina as a behavioral marketing specialist from the United States of America. Let me give an interruption here to mention Samuel as our namely tradition keeper, and he's in the consultancy sector since the following second year of the independence of Armenia, basically being really an active participant in all the stages of Armenia's business development. And when you're talking about behavioral aspect, he can comment on which stage we have come to that. For example, on behavioral aspect, what differences do you see in small businesses in the United States of America and Armenia? I would say that here among Armenian small business behavioral specifics, the latter think that it is all right to be wrong. We do this, if it works, it works. There's a lack of planning, and as it's small business, people do not take it seriously here. In the USA, I worked for the third biggest wine company in California, and I remember every year and every 2 years we have been establishing a small wine production factory, grew it to make it a big factory. And when I remember how much we paid attention to develop those small products, small factories, on branding, on social media, etc., I do not see that in Armenian small businesses. So, can we say that there is no impression that Armenian SMEs do not want to grow and become visible? In America, small businesses, they are initially set up to grow. are raising a very profound issue here. Every time we discuss this behind the curtains, and till now, for me as an expert, is still a big question mark. What is an SME in Armenia? Is that some kind of a conveyor where you become small after micro and then medium after small, etc.? And that conversion is measured and the toolkit is designed and the relevant policy and officials under this period of which larger number of businesses grow in this volume, they are praised and encouraged. This refers to the politicians that work in this period. Every time any reform for the small businesses is adopted. While in the USA, a strict conveyor mechanism works and people know that they should not stay small for a long period of time. Though they have these preferential conditions for them, they realize that those preferential conditions are temporary. Our tax authorities define legislative thresholds in such a way that small businesses do not want to grow here in Armenia, and most often it's beneficial to become micro from small. A reverse process goes here. I would like to make a sharp note related to digitalization. We can claim digitalization is very important for us, but if you don't develop it when we just outline this, is not good. Using the occasion to be in one studio with you, Elvina, as an expert, I suggest let's position digitalization now in packaging, brand it, and try to sell it in the upcoming 15 minutes. So, what does it give to the businessman, especially SME? He or she launches a website when his friends did that, and he was ashamed not to have it. Then Facebook appeared, and they said, "Why do we need a website now when there is Facebook to sell?" Now, after that, when influencers have appeared, people are saying, "Let's pay them twice a month for a Facebook post." And pay Facebook page managers, so-called, that they will post daily updates like good morning, good evening, and on Fridays they will ask what coffee do you prefer, etc., etc. Why should SMEs accept that? Because we're talking on active activities now, active steps to take. And the second question I would like to ask, and then we will listen to the answers together. For them, not to react on situation, but have a global strategy. What should be done using digital solutions to make small businesses grow? What is the role of digital solutions here? Well, firstly, you have used the wording that I agree with when referring what's going on in social media. We say what that there is today. What you said actually is very close to my heart, I have to admit. Here we have a totally sincere conversation, urging you to be sincere as well in your comments and your remarks. Those who listen to us and hear this program, Gortsara program, businessman program, know that we call things, like they say, with their names. So we call them as they are, because the goal is to discuss things in maximal short period, and productive solutions will be coming after that. First of all, I will refer to what will give the small businesses this route to digitalization, especially micro businesses, especially when we're talking about Facebook and social sites. First of all, those who have essential money and time as well. I have been born and raised in business-owned family where my dad has had several small businesses, never had a big business though. And when we're talking with him about, I'm trying to convince him to advise him as a specialist in the house that can help. It's like you fairly mentioned a bit earlier that he's in his comfort zone, my dad, stating that he pays his taxes and doesn't want changes. But we have opened up father's secrets though here. Hope he will not watch this program, and let's hope the tax authorities will not watch this program as well. I always tell my father that he will save money and much time in that way. This is how we have a conflict about expenses, because initially you need to have expenses to go digital. Thus, in many cases, small businesses are afraid to spend funds to make investments, then to possibly get profit, possibly, like they like to say, and success in a long-term perspective. While Facebook and Instagram are not so expensive in this aspect, if only presence is required on these platforms, but to professionally operate Facebook and Instagram, it's not an easy thing, and I want people to be able to differentiate making posts on social media platforms from doing digital marketing. If at this moment we're posting a photo, adding to it, oh, this was wonderful, that is, of course, that will still be wonderful, but making 15 photos and posting like that is not marketing, and it doesn't mean someone is operating your SMM platform. And how should we understand that it's a post, or is it marketing? I will answer on simple example of my company. For 1.5 years, we were trying to find the correct operation manner for our SMM platforms, which will actually work on our business market and will demonstrate business owners what we're marketing, not just making posts. What do? We plan a strategy for every social media platform, and we talk to business owners what their business goals are, and they say, for example, we plan for 3 months. As recent developments showed, it's not rational to make long-term plans. And what are the business goals here? We try to differentiate with these goals and try to make them reach through digital platforms, which we make with digital, with the other ones which we make without the digital too. And if we estimate that, for example, X, Y, and Z goals can be reached through digital marketing mechanisms through these platforms, which are the realistic periods to reach those. On this we also comment. After all, who said that it's good for your business to be on both platforms, on Facebook and Instagram? Maybe you don't need Facebook. Maybe your target audience is not on Facebook. Maybe Facebook has become a bit politicized platform now. Well, we can say that Facebook in Armenia has been like a browser in several years already. During several years, for now, it has substituted Google search. And if there is any number or information on Facebook available, I think the specialists listening to us may comment on this. People read news, do shopping, write to someone, check on upcoming events, schedule a meeting in particular group. That's all done on Facebook. You made a very good remark on whether at all the platforms are needed. Let's push this closer to the businessman. Yes, it seems like tools all available, and even my daughter can do that. My grandson can know how to deal with that platform, or my child can use TikTok very well every day. Then maybe we should open a TikTok for our gas station. Why not? And our kids will start to dance there. Maybe, just maybe. And we got 200,000 likes with this. The specialist approach here is very vital because we're getting back to the literacy and education field. Companies working in digital sector all provide some services. At the same time, the businessman is alone there, standing. Small and medium businessman cannot decide. It seems like having a company is good, everything is good in the company, located it's in a quite a good place, things are going well, has a good website, but that is what serves him with benefits or no? That's the question. Once you pointed out that one time upon disappointment, the businessman totally rejects using the solution, especially today when it's very important for your product to be phygital, to be in the physical field and at the same time in the digital. You have digital product and digital emotion issue here. From this aspect, we're dealing here with two groups, even three. First group are the people who have already got disappointed. The second group is who want, but they don't know how. And the third group is... But before all of this, I would like to ask for a specialist opinion here. Is it worthy even to be positioned on TikTok with our business content? Well, TikTok issue is the most painful question for marketing specialists. When I was living in the United States of America, I personally used TikTok and I liked it a lot because TikTok content was very qualitative there, and here it's actually not. This is positioned geographically because I was personally surprised last week to find that in Russia, Russian TikTok was totally different in terms of content. That's probably TikTok's algorithm. As of this moment, my colleagues offer me maybe we should go on TikTok too. I answered that as far as we have quality issues there, I'm not saying it doesn't bring benefits. After all, it's a social platform. If there are so many followers, it can still be used, but the following factor should be considered. The audience there is quite young, and there is a question to what extent there is a connection of business and an audience like that. And if we understand there's a targeted one there, then maybe. And secondly, the factor of company ego. I'm engaged in doing marketing for one company, and when we decided to make use of the audience there, but on the other hand, later we realized that we do not want our company to be on TikTok. That was what they claimed. There are issues of being prestigious at that moment when positioning. To consider that need, these kind of issues need to be discussed. Now, we need to understand, you mentioned ego of the company as the spice up detail to this conversation. Getting back to our previous topic on digitalization about the people who got disappointed and do not even consider that. I would like to add something and fully refer to this issue raised by you. I would like to point out an important aspect here. About that aspect actually combines the issue you raised. The first time to consider when thinking of digitalization for business owners, I would like them firstly to form a full understanding of their own business. Because very often when I meet people and business owners especially, I ask them questions and I discover that they do not even have a clear perception on their own business specifics. Like they just have decided to sell shoes, so let's sell those shoes then. It's like that. And then they have one young attractive girl, and this leads to an idea establishing an aesthetic medicine center, and they just go with it to launch that. They just do not understand A to Z business mechanisms. I would love them to know that at first. For me, this topic is very actual, as the day after tomorrow I need to host a session on this topic for a company that wants to go digital but doesn't have a clear understanding of that. Those sessions are important from the aspect of goals, not even processed that much. To fix this, we're talking now that digitalization is an exam now on how you have revealed the details of your business. Imagine the specifics and how you realize who your customer is. The next issue I wanted to refer to is when you understand your business, you know who your customer is. My statement is a bit negative probably, but you have no idea when I talk to a business owner here, when they need to a market to launch a new product, to run a campaign. Of course, I know what to do because I have made my research, etc. When I ask their marketing director who their audience is, and the reply goes like this: we do not know, we do not have data on who they are, and that's indeed, in my opinion, embarrassing for them. Even if they say everyone, that's not very good too. Or when I ask what are your drawbacks and your strong sides, especially when we always avoid mentioning our drawbacks. However, social media is a perfect place to twist your drawbacks into your strengths. If I am a marketing specialist and I learn about your drawbacks, I will prefer to turn them in such a fun manner on Instagram or Facebook that I will turn them into your strengths. In reality, Armenian businessmen are a bit, I would say, arrogant in this aspect. I believe that our products are the best services that they are actually, and our competitors can go and learn in other places to get to our level. People, we need to be realistic because this is business. For example, in the USA, in course of wine factory meeting I was talking about, we had like 25, and we were importing 20 European wines, types of wines. When I was just hired to work there, I was fascinated by the manner of their introduction. I've collected all information and their weak points. They have put aside their ego to the level that the winemaker spoke which wine was good and which one wasn't. Imagine that the winemaker who made that fine wine himself spoke about that, and that was the success for me as a marketing specialist, as I could learn understanding that those bad wines would not be sold in a year's time. Thus, I need to pay all my attention, focus all my attention on that issue. And here in Armenia, we avoid voicing problems. Now, getting back to your question about the second and third segments of the people and their approaches that we were talking about with Samvel on this. And it's such a pity that the market is spoiled and participants penetrate there with poor quality and cheap prices, attracting small businessmen to work with them. Because if you want quality service, it's not going to be cheap. If someone offers you all scope of services for, let's say, 50,000 Armenian drams, like shooting, content creation, all the other services by the same entity, you're wondering, ironically, what an entity is that? But businessmen are smart, as they could create business after all, and they should be smart enough to understand that one person cannot professionally perform 5 specializations. And obviously that person might misperform in some areas, and those might be the areas which are important to us. This means we must not prefer cheap and amateur service providers, but rather prefer professional services. But people who got already disappointed in some services after using them, they should ask a question. Possibly the specialist was or was not a good one. It's not about the specialist, but the platform was chosen incorrectly. I have friends who run business, and when I ask them, how is the business going? And they say, all is great, everything's great. And I ask them, why is everything great? They do not know why the things are going good. We do not like to analyze. This is the same situation when something goes bad in business. People realize that something should be done about that, to do sales and to apply marketing agencies, probably with this request. There should be an analysis. If our business was fine from this month to that, let's analyze and understand why was it good. If it was bad, let's analyze and understand why was it not good. In the same logic, if we have set Facebook, Instagram, website operated and nothing works resultatively, we say specialists are not good. Let's understand what the specialist did and compare to the market selected by other companies who are considered to perform well. Comparison helps here. Let's say I have a cloth store and the person that operated my Facebook and Instagram was not good and I got disappointed. Let me find a successful company on social network then and analyze. Maybe they used better colors than we did. Dear Elena, at moments like this, the sleeping lawyer awakens inside of me, the lawyer that wants to stand by the businessman, because we should not forget that businessman who creates products, services, is not stimulated in our country. Rather, those are stimulated who are on trade. As a distinct example to this is an import data that we have in Armenia. The businessman who created value, produced goods, already thinks that he or she are heroes, and it is so indeed. After that, when selling their product and the process, how it should be done, etc., the businessman gets surprised that how it could happen that after all he actually planted the tree of the business, planting a tree on the rock, and that tree gave an apricot, and meanwhile other people used to make particular beverage from apricots using medical vodka. Meanwhile, he kept his apricot, let's say, for 8 years, and after that, young specialists here come and ask about the drawbacks of his product. Perhaps the rock on which he grew the tree was not suitable, the apricot as a fruit wasn't selected correctly, or the bottle was not suitable, etc. Did you imagine the specifics of this situation? I want us to talk a little from the aspect of reality, as far as that person has already fought his battles in other places. Now, here's another consideration. Why don't we have success on digital platforms? We have enormous quantity of digital sector companies, marketing, sales, e-commerce, but the cases made them not publicized or so. I like to illustrate this example of a commercial about dishwashing, if you remember that commercial. When they introduced that in one village after the feast they were washing the dish, and still when in the other village with the specific washing liquid the similar dish was already washed, and the first village and when they washed the dish in the first village, the feast continued there. Meanwhile, in the second village they were still washing that dish. Remember that commercial? Why don't we introduce in a comparative success format our success stories? But our businessmen are in some kind of undecided state now. They do not have an an idea who has been through those processes and how this success should have been positioned. If a company gets to know that this success is essential to have a website, to have social network targeted, the world is thankful that you have had discussion on behavioral marketing, my colleagues. And it's not common already for the world select this kind of sex or residence-based target audience, because it might turn out that, for example, 18-year-old girl and 64-year-old adult may have the same interests on socials. Let's say they both have a desire to spend weekends out of town and have, for example, or have the same earring, wear the same earring. It's amazing, but it's possible. Why don't we want to become proactive ourselves? Because I think that digital sector companies have already selected a smart approach. Whoever realizes their necessity comes and addresses them, positioning like they are a serious company, not publicizing and not publishing posts for only 60,000 Armenian drams, let's say. If they know us, and then they should find us. That's their logic.
Գործելավոր կգան գդիմեն ով որ խելացի է թողա մեզի դիմի մենք իրանց հետ կաշխատենք գինը հանել ենք վերև մենք հրապարակում չենք անում 60000 դրամով ամսական մենք լուրջ ընկերություն ենք բայց եթե մեր տեղը իմանան թողան դիմեն.
This is the same topic we were addressing. $20,000 and $100,000 cost companies give the same promises, and when asked for a portfolio, many of them show it, and unsuccessful projects are positioned like we have created an awesome creative project and the customer didn't like it. There are many conflicts like that. On my example, I am in this sector in Armenia for a year and a half, and it's my pleasure to that I worked in this company, started everything in a smooth here, and I personally interact with the customers before contracting and launching the collaboration. Prior to that, I go with my examples. I had a friend for whose company we did branding from A to Z. Soon they were able to open the second factory. I will not mention names, but in a year and a half, they had 2 factories, 4 to 5 stores in the regions. But are they aware that this is due to Instagram and Facebook visibility? Did they realize and acknowledge that? Yes, of course they did. Let's go closer to reality, closer to the case. Let's imagine that from this aspect of some service, we need to come to the phase that the change is unique. Let's call it Republic of Armenia. Can we sustain and keep it? Or are we going to be conquered? Can we sustain us? Or soon we will be using products from other countries. For example, digital services from outside. And at the end of the day, it might turn out that there is nothing Armenian actually. It's a real challenge here because there are interesting offers from Armenian market. It's a pity not to position those. And from that point of view, it's important that marketing company gives a solution. The company that grows clearly realizes that there is a clear collaboration and that product is sold in Armenia or even better, it's exported. And I want to say that Armenian businessman is like this, and I interact with Armenian businessmen a lot, and I myself am an Armenian businessman. It is traceable that businessmen evaluated or his or her work more than outsourced services. That's the reality here. Saying I have made this. It's important, this statement to them. In B2B business sector, that product composing is pictured precisely. 1.5 years term measurable numbers due to Facebook and Instagram. The CEO of the company acknowledged the impact and makes the statement about achievements and the digital solutions that we proposed, etc. Then he smiles, and from now on we should have a corporate email and not, for example, let's say narekik44 mail.ru. We should have a corporate culture for communication on platforms. How should we reach that level? That's the question. When the win position is on our field and the contracted company providing services there is on the other. I will arrange inviting you to our company to introduce you how we communicate with clients. Follow us and we will go live from Digital Factory on this. I will both introduce my work style and answer to your questions when you come. But not from the personal positioning, but sectorial. We want to solve a sectorial problem, like Narek said, how to package the product and provide it to the person to accept and consume, and after all say that it was great. I will introduce and refer to the questions. When we understand that the business is like that, and then we need to consult it if we want to go digital, I would like to ask those specialists to firstly say what they think about your business. If I need to run a particular business marketing, but I do not believe in its realization, I will not be able to do that. Firstly, it's necessary to understand if a person who will run our marketing believes that the idea that what we do or what we are planning to do have a reason or an impact, then together with that person who will do your marketing, you need to develop, and that person needs to develop your audience. In some cases, the businessman says, why should I do this? Maybe he's right, and the marketing specialist needs to advise him who his target audience is. Probably the businessman says, my target audience is from 20 to 60-year-old people, and if there are no 60-year-old people on Instagram, then what's the sense in this aspect? So the marketing specialist must be so informed in this business communication that he or she will be able to provide the business correct consultancy. For example, saying, we will examine for your company both local and international markets, and we will introduce what your competitors do on local and international markets. And after that, we will design your visual introduction style, so that even without remembering your company name, with colors, visual impressions, you will be recognized. I'm sure this happened to you as well. After visual introduction, what is important next? It's so-called tone of voice. The marketing specialist shall decide your voice on digital platforms with your customers, which is also very important. Let's say if you are in a consultancy business and you position yourself with street style, light tone of voice, maybe an Armenian businessman does not like to be addressed in such a manner, because you may go easy with hi, how are you, but when you call the company you hear say good day sir, and that is when it's done there. There is another specific that is not the businesses to understand. The aspect of this person is very important too. A person needs to pay for those first of all to be able to use those, and then has to pay again to have those ads, broadcasting budget, to turn them on. Using ads, it's like double expense for them. And here they start to think, when you are suspicious type, it's a matter of character. How are you going to budget this, spend my money? That's the question asked to the specialist. And here the company must require the specialist to introduce broadcast plan and how they are going to run your pages, etc. As we're going to the conclusion, let's resume. This means that digital solution providers are not performing a request, but rather it should be a collaboration between the client and the service provider in a long-term plan. And while there is no collaboration, I just remember the case when we went to our customer, the draft contract, where it was mentioned that you should form your company work group to work with us, and the client immediately responded, why should we form a group if you are the program performers? This collaboration is virtual here, and it should include agreement.
Դուք եք իրականացնելու ծրագիրը, ասենք այո, իրար հետ պետք է։ Այդ համագործակցության կարևոր բանն է, այստեղ կարա լինի թվային, ասենց ասած, համաձայնությունը, հա, ու որպես վերջին
Սավեջան ընդհանրապես մեկ մի հատ
Dear Samvel, using the occasion that we have such a specialist here in the studio, I would like to make a comment on the fact that finally the complaints of SMEs got grouped and they reached their goal. And SMEs have been complaining that they're having difficulties to compete with big players, as you remember, especially in retail sector with supermarkets, etc. And that was fair enough back then in terms of local and foreign, by the way, because the volume and the skills and the opportunities are different with SMEs and the supermarkets that pay payment for the shelves, etc., that they couldn't afford. Meanwhile, it's normal that the shelves are sold in retail because that is the logic of business. The business model is like that. If they don't follow the business model, they need to close down, and in this case, all the problems will come to the solution with e-commerce. Digital solutions are here, and you don't need now to be represented in 15,000 spots, and just to be positioned, you need to pay $10,000-$20,000. So small and micro businesses are now on the same platform, having an opportunity to have several platforms with little money and little investment. Everyone got the opportunity to display their goods in their way, and there is no merchandiser that speaks well in the case, and in the other case he doesn't speak well. Of course, these are their rules of positioning, but fully e-commerce gives small businesses a chance to be positioned both in Armenia and abroad. But our e-commerce development is with small percent, almost zero. Food tech sector, even COVID didn't lead to this development.
Չնչին ուրեմն տոկոսներ, մանավանդ food tech ոլորտում ընդհանրապես շատ քիչ է, հա, նույնիսկ COVID-ը իր հետևից, հա, չբերեց դրա զարգացմանը։ Եվ ամենակարևորը աշխարհում
Food tech world trend e-commerce platforms are kind of repeated from the real sector, Amazon, Utkonos, and in our case that is linked to the supermarket with their options. That is because no demand was formed. Every one of us would shortly refer to this problem after COVID.
Այստեղ էլ եմ ուզում հասկանամ, արդյոք մենք այդ խնդրին եկեք անդրադառնանք ու
Այդ շատ կարճ ժամանակահարթ են։
What message should we send not to miss that opportunity? Because practice showed that Wildberries entered Armenia and won SME placement. Eurasian Union products are sold in Armenia now.
Գրավեց փոքր միջին բիզնեսի տեղը, այսինքն երատամը երկրների բոլոր արտադրանքը վաճառվում է Հայաստանում։
Լավ։ Այս տեսա համաչիր Էլինա։
Ես մի հետաքրքիր բան հիշեցի COVID-յան իրականության մեջ։
I remembered an interesting statistics from COVID when I was working in the United States and then moved to Armenia. And strategies were different in the USA. We managed to increase e-commerce profit over 3 times selling wine, which is the hardest thing to do. What happened then, I came to Armenia, a lot of marketing agencies were about to close because most of their partners refused on Facebook, gave it up, and on Instagram because didn't have budget.
Լիքը ագենստվաներ մարքեթինգային հատկապես այն եզրին էին, որ պետքա փակվեին, ինչի, որովհետև գրեթե գործընկերների մեծ մասը հրաժարվել էր Facebook, Instagram ծառայություններից, որտեղ իրենք բյուջետ չունեին։
Շատ լավ։
My last question, and don't forget to introduce our partners too. A very famous businessman said social media platforms are good, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, but remember that they are not yours. They belong to the social media network owners. You own your website. Your short opinion on this. Is website a locomotive power assisting the power of SMEs?
Սոցիալական ցանցերի տերերինն են։ Ձերը վեբ կայքն է ձեր, դա։ Այս ձեր մոտեցումը ասես կարճ համառոտ այս մասին, Արդյոք եթե խոսքը գնում է միայն սոցիալական ցանցերի, թե գումարած վեբ կայքին լոկոմոտիվա քաշող ուժա, թե օժանդակող ուժա փոքր բիզնեսի համար։
Նայեք, իրականում հետաքրքիր
Interesting data, but I do not agree much because you have your account with your Facebook followers and they are yours.
ու հետևորդներով ամենչով դրանք քոնն են, քո հաճախորդները
Ռուսաստանում
What happened in Russia? Shut down in a day.
փակվեց մեկ օրվա մեջ։
Well, I agree, but the same can happen with website. They may be hacked, etc. But domain is still yours. Is it more a locomotive or assisting power, assisting driver? Assisting role, but websites speak more on your professionalism depending on what website there is. Well, let's suppose it's informative, because e-commerce websites are like shops. Well, if we're talking on informative websites and if we're talking on behavioral information source, people mostly get it from Facebook and Instagram. First, I will check Facebook and Instagram, and then if I do not manage to get information, then I will check the website. Like I like to say, websites are for students, they are information source, and that's it. That was very interesting. Once again, thank you everyone. I would like to remind once again that Business Dialogue program was on air in frames of the program Strengthening Associations, Improving Access to Digital Economies to Restore Armenia's Economy, financed by SIPE, Center for International Private Enterprise. And in Armenia, the program was implemented through BSC, Business Support Center. Thank you everyone, and thank you Evelina Markaryan, head of marketing department at Digital Factory, Samvel Gevorkyan, the head of BSC, and me, Narek Alexanyan, business consultant. Thank you. I would like to end up on a positive tone, and I strongly believe that Armenian businessmen will be advanced to have corporate digital tools, and they will incorporate those tools in this sector. In saying this sector, I mean SMEs, as it's not yet, this is on the schedule plan. We have managed to change hospitality sector in 2 years. In many CIS countries, they would love to have hospitality HoReCa sector like ours. We managed that because the businessmen set a goal.
Դեր իր առօրյայում սա չի հայտնվել։ Եկեք փաստենք, այսինքն, որտեղ մենք կարողացանք 2 տարվա մեջ փոխել հյուրընկալության ոլորտը, եւ կարելի ասել ԱՊՀ երկրներում շատ երկրներ ցանկանային ունենային Հայաստանում հյուրընկալության, ռեստորանային, կաֆեների ոլորտին հավասար ինչ-որ մի բան, հա, բայց մեր մոտ դա եղավ, որովհետեւ գործարարը իր դեմ դրեց այդ խնդիրը։ Եկեք հուսանք, որ
Let's hope that this year and the next year will be advanced period for digital advancement in Armenia for Armenian businesses.
Բոլորս անելիք ունենք, նաև թվային ոլորտում ծառայություններ մատուցող ընկերությունները
We all have things to do in this and be proactive. Thank you for participation. Thank you. Follow us. Soon we will have our regular program with more surprises to come.
Հաջողություն ձեզ։